All right, let's get it going here on YouTube. And Eyes Up Here Extra, closing out a big year for Eyes Up Here on YouTube with a little discussion. Crazy to think that 2023 is going to be in the books, but we're not done yet. Before we go any further, I want to welcome in the one and only, the queen of Extreme, Miss Francine. How's everything going today for you?
It's going great. How are you?
Oh, a box of fluffy ducks. I know you like when I say that.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. That's great. Good to hear it. I'm getting ready. I'm going to plug it now. I'm getting ready for my virtual this Sunday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, signed by superstars.com. I will be doing a live in-studio signing. And good Lord, do I have a lot of stuff. There are I think there's like over 20 or 30 8x10s, and we put new ones up this week that have never been sold. And I have a bunch of ring-worn items that will be up for sale. We also have this crazy wheel game that we're going to play. And I believe it's kind of like you spin the wheel, and what it lands on, we have to do, which is kind of scary.
Spin the wheel, make the deal.
Kind of like that, but we haven't done this kind of thing in the past. Like usually you spin the wheel and there's prizes on it. This time you get something, but we also have to do something because you spun the wheel. There's an added incentive to it. So okay. Lots of drinking. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. So again, signedbysuperstars.com this Sunday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Well, what a year it's been across the wrestling landscape. I mean, I almost wanted to take this space to say, let's do our big year in review, but there's been a little more movement in the last couple of days I want to get your take on. And for all the positive momentum that we talked about with WWE and CM Punk, and it seems like everybody's just so happy there and doing the old, circle, hands in the circle, and going around and everybody's, what is it? I want to buy the world a Coke,
Coke. Going, yeah, I like to teach the world to sing in perfect.
That's it. I said Pepsi. What a huge botch. I was thinking CM Punk. It seems like everything's kind of going well there. They had a big house for their MSG show right after Christmas, and people accuse me a lot of saying that a lot of anti-AEW sentiment comes out of my mouth, but I got to bring this up.
Of course you do.
There's been a lot of moonwalking out of AEW over the last couple of days.
Yeah, I saw that a couple people left, but you, in our conversation before we started filming, you told me there was more than I even knew. So why don't you go down the list and we'll see if they end up anywhere.
I will. So the last one that we had heard was a biggie to leave was QT Marshall, who did a lot. He did a lot of backstage work. He was an on-air character, formatted a lot of the shows, but he left, and he left very publicly. Did the whole tweet, goodbye, and this is why I'm leaving. By the way, I hate that. And before I go into it, would you do that if you were leaving a company in 2023?
I don't. I mean, I feel like it's the way you word it. Maybe if you wanted to say thank you, if you didn't get a chance to say like thank you to certain people, or is it just bringing attention to yourself? Look at me kind of deal. But I think it's okay if you're thanking people because everybody uses social media. So I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's the way you word the tweet.
I tend to think it's on the side of what you just said. It's a very look at me kind of thing, but QT Marshall's leaving in January when his contract's up. He was also a big time trainer with AEW and helping mold that next group that they were supposed to be really bringing to the forefront and a lot of that next generation talent. But this week, another big name. And when I say big name, I mean from the founding group of people who were in AEW, Shawn Spears is now leaving AEW. And now that's a biggie, I think, because Shawn Spears has some connections to guys that have left already. But again, very publicly going to AEW when AEW first launched, 5 years ago at this point. So
yeah,
publicly tweeting this whole diatribe.
Well, he does have a baby and one on the way. So his family is growing. Maybe he's got an offer and he'll, be making more money elsewhere. One can only assume WWE. You had mentioned also one of the Bucks' wives.
Yes.
Okay.
Dana Massey, the wife of Matt Jackson, who worked in the merchandising area for AEW, also left the company. Now, of course, there's speculation as to why she really left, and some of that speculation is that there was not a lot of support for the Bucks in some of the goings on over the last 6 to 8 months in AEW, which I kind of find strange because the guy who was the main cog in the wheel of those problems is now gone. So how is there not support for the Bucks if Punk is gone?
Are the Bucks are they being pushed? Because again, this is me talking. I have not seen their product. Are they, what show are they on these days? Are they being pushed? Are they tag champs? Like, what's the deal with them? Are they being put on the shelf? Is it weird because like when Cody left, it seemed like everybody was just like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, to me, that's a weird one because like unless she just doesn't want to work anymore or they don't need the money, because the Bucks are young and I think they're pretty financially stable from what I've heard. Maybe she doesn't want to work anymore. It's not like she's going to jump ship and go to WWE and head their merchandise.
Right.
I doubt that. But the connection I'm thinking of is Cody Rhodes. He made such a like his comeback was huge when he went back to WWE because he had so much invested in AEW. He literally walked out the door and started a new promotion from the ground up. And then he leaves that promotion and goes back to the place that he left, which, was WWE. So does he have pull with the likes of like Triple H or like anybody in the office that he can say, listen, I got a couple friends that want to just jump ship. You can think of it a couple ways. That is a slap in the face to AEW. WWE might open the door and say, everybody come on in. You know what I mean? Because why does everybody want to leave Tony?
Yeah.
What's going on over there that everybody is either disgruntled or they want to walk out the door? Have we heard anything about morale? Is it not as high as one would think it is right now? Is WWE the place to be? Because we always heard that that's the miserable locker room. But now it seems like everybody's just happy and they're making their money and the numbers are up and, things are looking good for them. It's amazing how the tide can just turn in a minute.
Yeah, flip on a dime. Now, I just want to go back to what I said about the Young Bucks, Matt Jackson's wife. According to the Wrestling Observer, Dave Meltzer explained the reason why Dana Massey's on her way out of AEW. It seems to have had to do with the company failing to defend her family after the CM Punk fallout. What did they want? Like fireworks and a tribute concert for the Young Bucks? I mean, like CM Punk's gone and they look foolish for letting him go.
I could see if Matt left and then she followed, but for her to take a stance and her husband still work for that company, that's odd. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like if it's good enough for Matt, why isn't it good enough for her to stay there and work? That's why I'm just saying, like, is there more to it? Does she not want to work anymore? Does she even need to work? Like, why isn't Matt Jackson walking out?
Yeah.
Why is he still there? Or maybe they're scheming and they're going to leave. Like, who knows?
Yeah, it's super weird how they've been booked because I think that they fall on that fine line, and this is just my speculation, that they didn't want to push themselves because it would be quite obvious that they were pushing themselves in their role that they're in and say, hey, we got to be the top tag team. But along the way, they did knock down some of the top tag teams, in their angles and storylines. But they've been on and off TV so much. It's like, how do you get behind them as a fan? Like, how do you get invested in them as a duo if they're and also too, they're heels, then they're cool heels, then they're baby faces, then they turn heel again, and it's like you can't keep up with what the hell they're doing any given week. So it's weird how they've even been booked in the promotion that they're such a huge part of, where the wife felt they are not being defended. It's all very strange. And again, if we look back, I wish we did a year review for 2022 to see where the two sides meet. Where were we at the end of 2022 going into 2023?
I just don't like the inconsistency of angles that run, because I hate to say this, but Paul was perfect at running different angles. He can make something go on for months and people would still be invested. But it seems like today everybody flip-flops and everything's rushed. And like you just said, like 1 minute they're baby faces, next minute they're heels, the next minute they're tweeners. Like nobody knows where they stand and what's going on. The angles are confusing. The casual fan can't follow the storylines, and they're not making them interesting enough to invest the time in it. You know what I mean? And then when you do invest your time, it's done in 2 weeks and they move on to the next thing. It's like, I don't know. I just feel like with the wife, it would have made more sense if her husband took a stand and said, I don't like the way I was treated. I'm going to leave the company. And then she turns around and she says, well, I'm going to follow my husband. To me, that would have made sense. Not her saying, well, I don't like the way they treated my family, and then he still works there. That's weird to me. You know what I mean? Like, why is he still there then? Are they not agreeing on this? Like, why would she take a stance and walk out, but he's still just, was making the rounds and doing the towns for them? Doesn't make any sense to me.
It's so weird. I mean, just the whole promotion just is booked so just oddly. And I forget who it was, but somebody had said it was being too much booked like a Japanese promotion, right? And it's too New Japan-y for an American consumer. Like that Japan-y for an American consumer. And it really is, because like I was looking at their Twitter page just to kind of get some context for some of the stuff going on. And they're like beating you over the head with the multi-man, like the 6-man and the 8-man matches. And that is like a staple of the Japanese pro wrestling scene. And
I know why they're doing that. They're doing that to stand out from the WWE. They're trying to be different and attract different viewers with a different type of product from what the Americans are used to seeing. Because not everybody watches Japanese wrestling, so they don't know about all that stuff. So if you watch the WWE product and you just see the regular ring with regular matches and blah, 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 and then you tune in to AEW and they're doing all this crazy stuff, you're like, wow, they're super creative over there. But little do you know, they've been doing it in Japan for years and years and years.
Right.
Casual fan doesn't know that because they don't keep up with Japanese wrestling. So I understand why AEW is doing stuff like that. I just don't like the inconsistency of their storylines and their angles, and everything just seems rushed from what I read. From the stuff that I read, and the turns and who's friends and who's not friends and blah 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 blah. It just seems to me like it's just rushed, and I can't wrap my head around that whole story about the wife leaving and him still working in the company.
Right.
That doesn't make sense. If the wife left, he should have been right behind her, or he should have announced he's leaving. Like, she should have just, she's trying to make some kind of a statement by saying they didn't support me and my family. Well, her family is her husband. So why is her husband still working there? Unless something comes out within the next week or two that, they're going to leave. The Bucks are going to leave. And does that tie Cody into this? Is Cody secretly working on getting a bunch of people WWE contracts? Because, man, I know WWE does not see them as competition, but wouldn't it be a slap in the face to Tony Khan if everybody just starts jumping ship and going back to WWE?
Yeah. And also, I've heard CM Punk is very much a big fan of the new NXT and how NXT is really
Look at all
helping
the girls.
build this. Hey, look, I mean, for that, I just give a nice little bravo. But,
There you go.
he's really digging the new NXT, and he's been helping out. I mean, this is a guy who, again, was vilified for certain things that he wanted a bigger part, but, they some people didn't want to give it to him. It's so weird. I don't get it.
Well, it has to do with your surroundings as well and what you're comfortable, where you're comfortable at. So maybe Punk wasn't comfortable there. He had a lot of people that were against him. And again, we can go back and forth on this because we did before. I don't know what the situation was with Phil and the company. It could have been that people were campaigning and politicking against him, and he got the short end of the stick. Now, when we've reported that Bryan Danielson was in charge of that committee, remember we did that got him fired? Everybody was doing in the comments this conspiracy theory that was worked out to get Punk fired. Like Punk was in on Bryan, turning on him, and Punk knew that, because they're really good friends, they're best friends. So Bryan Danielson didn't go against Punk. He did it to help him get out of the company. And it's like, well, if Punk didn't want to be there, couldn't he just ask for his release on his own? Maybe he wouldn't have got it, but, was this all a ploy to get him fired so he can leave and go back to WWE? I don't know. Like, I was reading all these comments and I'm just like, well, that opened up a different can of worms for me because I didn't even think of that part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of theories going around. The one thing I'm thinking of with all these people wanting to leave AEW is Cody Rhodes going to be the staple and the guy that gets everybody back in good graces and gets all these people jobs again. Because he can be their voice. He's in. And maybe Punk too, if Punk's friendly with, a lot of these. I'm not saying the Bucks, obviously, but everybody else, who knows? But I'll say it again. The grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Yeah. Let me read you a quote and then another little tidbit that's come out. This is a quote by MJF via TV Insider. Tony Khan pours his literal heart into the company, much like I do, much like everyone who genuinely cares about this company does.
Never said he didn't.
But what does that say? Does that mean some people don't care about the company? They just want to be there for the paycheck?
Tony has a little heart. What's a little heart mean? I don't
literal.
I know.
Literal heart. But you know what I mean? Like does that say that some people don't pour their whole heart into the company?
I don't know, but this is also a guy who was tweeting, I didn't sign a contract extension, and was telling us he could end up in WWE. So what does that mean?
That's a good point too. And then the Wrestling Observer also has reported that Andrade may be looking to leave and go back to WWE. Now, Andrade's basically, this is the rumor since he got there, that he didn't want to be there anymore and he wanted to go back to WWE, where Charlotte.
Right. So he wants to be with his wife, maybe?
With his wife, yes. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing. It's like, okay, is that a surprise? I don't think so. But
no.
Again, this is a guy that basically has been poorly booked since the start. It's just another one of those pawns that they have. And so we have Andrade, who was a huge star in NXT for a while. Then WWE dropped the ball on, released, boom, gone. But now if he goes back under this new regime, if he goes back, is that another knock against AEW if Andrade is booked correctly? I mean, so there's so many questions going into 2024. It's crazy.
Yeah. And again, it'll be interesting because, stories are going to come out. I'm assuming they all have 90-day clauses like the normal contracts do. So we're not going to see anybody probably until what, February or so, if anything. That would be the earliest, if they're, you know, leaving at the end of December, or if their contract expired this month. But again, do these people have relationships that they can reach out on their own, or is it going to be Cody? I'm just curious. And I want to see what the Bucks do, because again, I just feel it's weird that the wife just walked out and made it a point to tell us that AEW didn't support her family. Like, that's a bold statement when your husband still works for the company.
Yeah.
Something doesn't add up. That's weird.
So something stinks, and it ain't my cologne, because I got a nice new batch for Christmas.
That's weird. That's cryptic. That's weird. I don't know.
A couple other departures backstage, workers, Raphael Morphy and also Kevin Sullivan, not the Taskmaster, but the backstage worker. I believe he might be television related. Have also left or announced their departures. And Raphael Morphy, I know, has a long history working with WWE in the past. He also works with Jim Ross. So if he's a guy who works with Jim Ross is also leaving, what if we might see another departure, a guy who's been shit on by the AEW fan base since day one?
Who, JR?
Yes, the AEW fans have killed JR since day one.
Hi.
Yes, because he mixes up names by accident. He gets the names of the moves wrong.
What's going on in his brain? Leave him alone. Can I just say one thing that I've been loving? Because I just discovered it recently. And I probably shouldn't even plug them, but have you watched Botchamania?
I've watched Botchamania in the
past. I've been like watching episodes of Botchamania, and what I love that they do is the stuff with Taz. Have you seen? They put the drawing up of him, and they have him singing, and they have when he's doing the announcing, and like the cameras aren't rolling, so they're just talking amongst themselves, and like the ridiculous stuff that he says is caught on. It's hilarious. There's always a sign in the crowd with the little drawing of him.
Is that how Taz was? Was he very abstract like that? You know,
No.
I mean, come on. I mean, this is not the same guy that I always heard of growing up.
I told you when he was on iHeart, when I first joined Twitter like 5 years ago, he contacted me right away and had me on his radio show and basically apologized for living his gimmick. And he's like, I'm not the same person I was back then. And, you know, if I was ever mean or rude to you, I'm sorry. And he was just one of those guys that kind of lived the gimmick back then. And now he's like, the one clip, he was like, Ruby, 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 so ho. And he was like dancing. And I was like looking at him like, wow, he's lightened up, man. I love it. It's great. And I always got along with Taz back in the day. I've never had any problems with him, but I'm saying like now he's like this fun-loving, silly kind of man that it's fun. It's attractive. I enjoy the Botchamania is so much better because Taz is in it. It's just funny. They always have a Taz segment and I love it. So shout out to you guys.
Did you ever wear orange by accident to one of the shows? Uh-oh.
Oh yeah. And he came up to me and he was like, what's up with the orange? And I go, what? And he's like, yeah, it's kind of my thing. And I was just like, oh, get away from me. Stop it, please. Yeah. One time. And it wasn't like, I would have wore it again, but orange really wasn't my color. You know, he didn't intimidate me or scare me, but yeah, he mentioned it.
That's great. Well,
hey brother, what's up with the orange? Like, sorry about that.
Well, let's see what the calendar brings when it switches to 2024.
Happy New Year, everyone. We love you so much. And we are hoping that 2024 is a better year. I'm going to say it right now. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe and get us to 10,000 subscribers right now. Do it right now. Smash that subscribe button.
Like, subscribe, share these videos. Do whatever you can to help get the word out about Eyes Up Here. Slowly taking over the wrestling landscape.
Yeah. And again, please, if you're home on New Year's Eve, signedbysuperstars.com, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am going to be a mess and you're going to love it. So tune in.
And also make sure you subscribe to Eyes Up Here on your favorite podcasting app, as well as the iHeartRadio app. This past week, we had an iHeartRadio exclusive where we do a dive deep into the Tammy Sitch interview with new commentary. And this coming week, we have a part 2.
It's Eyes Up Here with Francine. You have to type in the with Francine because there are 2 Eyes Up Here. And if you don't type in with Francine, you're going to get the other broad. And you don't want her. You want me.
Yeah, that broad and I are going to have a sit down.
Yeah.
I keep saying it. We're going to have
me and her. She's lovely, but we don't want her. We want me.
We're due to have a sit down, me and that chick.
You have
yeah, please subscribe there as well and listen to those 2 iHeartRadio exclusive episodes of Eyes Up Here with Francine.
There you go.
So if that's it, if that's all we've got, we can get out of here for 2023. And for the Queen of Extreme, this
Happy New
Year! This is the Chadster. We will catch you on the flip side.